Welcome to this deep dive. If you're listening, you're probably looking for real answers on weight loss, ways to, cut through all the noise.
Exactly. There's so much out there.
Right. So today we're digging into some science-backed strategies. We've got research looking at everything from diet tweaks to bigger lifestyle changes.
And the goal is really to focus on what the evidence actually points to, actionable stuff, not just quick fixes.
Okay, let's jump right in then. First up, something a lot of people talk about, intermittent fasting, or IF. For anyone new to this, what exactly are we talking about?
Sure. So intermittent fasting isn't so much about what specific foods you eat, but more about when you eat them. It's basically a pattern.
A pattern.
Yeah, you cycle between periods of eating normally and periods of voluntary fasting. And interestingly, studies looking at, say, up to 6 months show it can be just as good for weight loss as your standard daily calorie-cutting diets.
That's as good. That's significant. So what are the main ways people actually do IF? What methods pop up in the research?
Well, there are a few main ones. One is alternate day of fasting ADF, pretty much what it sounds like. Fast one day, eat the next.
Every other day sounds intense.
It can be. There's a modified version, too, where on fasting days, you still eat a bit, maybe like 25–30% of your usual energy needs.
Okay, a bit more manageable maybe. What else?
Then you've got the 5.2 diet. That involves eating normally 5 days a week. And then on 2 days, not back-to-back, you cut down calories quite a lot, to around 500 or 600.
Right, I've heard of that one. And isn't there one based on daily timing?
Yeah, probably the most popular one right now, the 168 method.
168.
Means you fast for 16 hours straight each day and have an 8-hour window where you do all your eating. So for example, maybe you only eat between noon and 8 p.m.
Okay, that seems quite common.
It is, and some studies found that people doing this often just naturally eat fewer calories overall and, well, they lose weight. There's even some thought that maybe these patterns mimic how our ancestors ate, which could possibly affect our metabolism in unique ways.
That's a fascinating idea. But there's a catch, right? You can't just eat junk during the 8 hours.
Oh, absolutely not. That's crucial. Whatever IF method you might try, it really only works if you're still eating healthy, balanced meals during your eating periods. And you have to watch out for overcompensating, binging when you can eat.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, so that's when we eat. What about keeping track of what we eat? The sources mention tracking diet and exercise. Sounds basic, but why does it work?
It really comes down to awareness. It's surprisingly powerful. Research shows again and again that when you actually log what you eat and drink, maybe in a notebook or an app, you just become much more conscious of it.
Like holding up a mirror, you said earlier.
Exactly. And that awareness often naturally leads you to make better choices. Plus, it can really boost your motivation, seeing your progress, or just, staying mindful.
And did that apply to exercise too?
Definitely. The research is clear. Consistently tracking physical activity helps with weight loss. Even something simple like using a pedometer to count your steps can be a really useful tool. Just seeing the numbers can nudge you to move a bit more.
Small things add up. Okay, next idea. Mindful eating. This sounds, well, a bit more involved than just chewing properly.
It is, yeah. Mindful eating is really about paying full attention to the whole experience of eating. How you eat, where you eat, savoring the food, being present.
Which is hard when we're, eating at our desks or in front of the TV.
Precisely. We often eat so fast, so distracted that we completely miss our body's signal saying, hey, I'm full. Mindful eating helps you tune back into those signals, but it's more than just fullness. It can kind of help rebuild a healthier relationship with food overall.
So how do we actually practice it? Any concrete techniques?
The research suggests a few things. First, try to actually sit down at a table just to eat. Focus on the food itself.
No distraction.
Right. Put away the phone, turn off the TV. Second, slow down, chew thoroughly, really takes the food. It takes about 20 minutes, apparently, for your brain to get the I'm full message. Slowing down gives it that time.
20 minutes, wow.
And third, it's about making more considered choices before you even eat. Choosing foods that are nutrient-dense, things that will actually satisfy you for longer.
Oh, sounds very intentional. Good advice. Okay. Shifting gears slightly, let's talk about protein. Why is getting enough protein with meals so important?
Protein plays a really key role in regulating appetite hormones. Basically, it helps you feel full and satisfied.
How does it do that, like chemically?
Well, eating protein tends to decrease levels of ghrelin, that's the hormone that makes you feel hungry. And at the same time, it increases hormones that signal fullness, things like peptide, YY, GLP-1, and cholecystokinin.
So it's working on both sides, reducing hunger signals and boosting fullness signals.
Exactly. And research, particularly in young adults, suggests that having a high-protein breakfast can have hormonal effects that last for hours, potentially helping you make better food choices later in the day, too.
Interesting. What kind of breakfasts are we talking about?
Oh, things like eggs, obviously. Oats, maybe with some nut butter stirred in.
Mhm.
Quinoa porridge is an option. Even things like sardines or chia seed pudding. Lots of ways to boost that protein early on.
Good ideas.
Yeah.
Now, a tough one for many. Sugar and refined carbs.
Yeah.
The research seems pretty clear on cutting back here.
Yeah, this is a big one. Added sugars are everywhere in the typical Western diet, and the link to obesity is really strong, even from sugary drinks.
And refined carbs, what falls into that category?
That's things like white bread, white rice, regular pasta, basically grains that have had the bran and germ removed during processing.
Taking out the good stuff, essentially.
Pretty much, you lose a lot of the fiber and nutrients. And these refined carbs, they digest really quickly. They get converted to glucose fast, which spikes your blood sugar and makes your body release a rush of insulin.
And insulin promotes fat storage, right?
Exactly. It tells your body to store that energy, often as fat. There was even a recent study, I think 2023, linking more refined grains directly with weight gain. Whole grains, on the other hand, digest slower, help you feel fuller.
So simple swaps can make a difference.
Absolutely. Choose whole grain bread, pasta, rice, whenever you can. Snack on fruit or nuts instead of sugary treats. Drink water, herb tea, maybe fruit-infused water instead of soda. Even smoothies better if they're water or milk-based, rather than just pure fruit juice. Small changes, big impact over time.
Okay, that ties into the next point. Fiber. We hear about fiber all the time.
Yeah.
What's the specific link to weight management?
Fiber, the indigestible part of plants, is crucial for feeling full. Because our bodies don't easily break it down, it slows digestion.
So it keeps food in your system longer.
Sort of, yeah. It adds bulk and slows everything down, which helps you feel satisfied for longer after eating. And if you feel fuller longer, you might naturally eat less overall.
Makes sense? Where do we find it, besides whole grains?
Lots of places. Fruits and vegetables are packed with it. Peas, beans, lentils, legumes are fantastic sources. Nuts and seeds, too. Basically, eating lots of different plant-based foods is the way to go.
Okay, now for something really cutting edge. Gut bacteria. How does our gut microbiome tie into weight?
This is a super interesting and rapidly growing area of research. We have trillions of bacteria and other microbes living in our gut.
Trillions.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And everyone's gut microbiome is unique. What researchers are finding is that certain types of gut bacteria seem to be better at extracting energy calories from the food we eat.
So two people could eat the same meal, but one person might actually absorb more calories because of their gut bugs.
That seems to be the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
More efficient energy extraction could lead to more energy being stored as fat.
Wow. Okay, so can we? Like
Oh.
improve our gut bacteria for weight management?
We can definitely influence it through diet. The research points to a few key things. Eating a wide variety of plants is great. More plant diversity means more fiber, which feeds a more diverse and likely healthier range of bacteria. Aiming for maybe 75% of your meals to be plant-based is a good goal.
Okay, lots of plants. What else?
Fermented foods, things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, miso, they contain beneficial live microbes, probiotics. Some studies, though still limited, hint that things like kimchi might have anti-obesity effects, and kefir showed promise for weight loss in one study with overweight women.
Interesting. Probiotics and prebiotics. I hear that term too.
Right. Prebiotics are types of fiber that essentially act as food for the good bacteria already in your gut, helping them thrive. You find them in foods like onions, garlic, leeks, asparagus, artichokes, bananas, oats, barley, lots of healthy stuff. Nurturing your gut seems really important.
Definitely food for thought. Let's shift focus away from diet for a moment. Sleep. How important is a good night's sleep for weight?
It's incredibly important and often overlooked. Consistently getting too little sleep, like less than 5 or 6 hours a night, is strongly linked to a higher risk of obesity in numerous studies.
Why is that? What's the mechanism?
There are a few reasons, actually. First, poor sleep can slow down your metabolism. Your body becomes less efficient at burning calories for energy, so more gets stored as fat.
Okay, slower metabolism.
Second, it can mess with your hormones. It can promote insulin resistance, making it harder for your cells to use sugar for energy, again, leading to more fat storage. And it increases cortisol, the stress hormone, which also encourages fat storage.
Cortisol, that brings us to stress later. Any other hormones involved with sleep?
Yes, crucially, it affects your appetite hormones.
Uh-huh.
Lack of sleep tends to decrease leptin, that's the hormone that tells you you're full, and increase ghrelin, the one that makes you hungry. So you feel hungrier and less satisfied when you do eat. A double whammy.
Wow, okay. Skimping on sleep really sets you up for failure then. All right, last major strategy. Managing stress. How does stress mess with our weight?
It's another hormonal connection. Initially, like in a sudden stressful event, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol, which can actually suppress appetite briefly, the whole fight or flight thing.
Right, you don't feel like eating when you're panicked.
Exactly. But the problem is chronic stress. When you're stressed out day after day, cortisol levels stay high. And sustained high cortisol does the opposite. It increases your appetite.
Increases it. For anything specific.
Often, yeah. It tends to make you crave high-calorie foods, especially carbohydrates. Cortisol is signaling your body that it needs to refuel its energy stores, and carbs are the quickest way. Insulin then helps shuttle that sugar away, and if you don't use that energy right away,
It gets stored as fat. I see the pattern.
imprecisely.
Yeah.
There was a study mentioned in our sources where kids and teens who did an 8-week stress management program alongside a diet actually saw significant reductions in their BMI compared to just diet alone.
So managing stress really can help. What kind of techniques work?
Things like yoga, meditation, tai chi can be really effective. Even just simple breathing exercises or relaxation techniques. Spending time outside helps too. Walking, gardening, just being in nature. Finding what works for you is key.
Great practical tips.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, let's tackle a few common, maybe slightly unrealistic questions people have. First, lose 10 pounds in 3 days. Possible? Healthy?
Realistically, no. Not in a healthy or sustainable way for most people. That kind of rapid loss is usually mostly water weight, and it almost always comes back quickly. Plus, the methods needed are often pretty unsafe.
Okay, good to clarify. What about losing 20 pounds in a month? People often set goals like that.
Again, it's really aggressive. It requires a massive calorie deficit burning way, way more than you eat. While maybe technically possible for some individuals under strict supervision, it's generally not sustainable for the long haul and carries health risks, like developing gallstones.
Gallstones, really. What other risks come with losing weight too fast?
Yeah. Besides gallstones, rapid weight loss can lead to things like dehydration, muscle loss, electrolyte imbalances, and nutritional deficiencies because you're likely not getting enough essential nutrients. And, as we keep saying, you're much more likely to regain the weight later, sometimes even more than you lost.
So slower is generally better, safer.
Definitely. The CDC, for example, recommends a gradual, steady pace of about 1 to 2 pounds per week. That's considered much safer and gives you time to build sustainable habits.
That's a really important perspective. Okay, so after digging into all this science, what's the big takeaway? The bottom line on effective weight loss.
I think the clearest message is that there really are no magic bullets or super quick fixes. Sustainable weight management comes down to building healthy habits you can stick with long term.
Habits like
Like focusing on a nutritious, balanced diet, plenty of fruits, veggies, good quality protein, whole grains, and combining that with regular physical activity. Aiming for at least 30 minutes of exercise most days is a great goal. It's about consistency and finding an approach that works for you.
So it's really about integrating these evidence-based strategies into your own life, finding what fits.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a race. Focus on those sustainable changes rather than chasing drastic short-term results that probably won't last and could even be harmful.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. It's great to cut through the hype and focus on what the research actually tells us. So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think. Which of these strategies could you realistically start incorporating? Whether it's trying an IF schedule, eating more mindfully, boosting protein or fiber, cutting back sugar, prioritizing sleep, managing stress, or simply tracking things more consistently. What small step could you take for your long-term health? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.